Okay, Call of Duty was a game about shooting. Before shooting, games were about jumping. When they made Call of Duty, people played the game, saying such things as, I liked Call of Duty, and they should make Call of Duty too. Infinity Ward, who makes Call of Duty, took that idea and ran with it, releasing a game with that exact title 2 years after the original. During that time, however, there were basically 3 other Call of Duties. United Offensive, an expansion pack for the first game, which included an entirely new campaign, Finest Hour, a game made for home consoles because home consoles didn't like the original COD, and then Big Red 1, which released alongside Call of Duty 2 for last-gen consoles, since only the Xbox 360 could do Call of Duty 2. Of those spin-offs, the studio behind Finest Hour never really worked on a COD again, for obvious reasons. The studio behind United Offensive, Grey Matter Studios, was merged with the studio Treyarch to create a studio called Treyarch, and that combined team went on to make Big Red 1 under the name Treyarch. But all these were just spin-offs. So far, the main series was still Infinity Ward's baby. All 2 of the main games were made by them. Call of Duty 2 was an even bigger success than Call of Duty 1, so they went straight to work with Call of Duty 4. Only one issue. The publisher, Activision, realized that you have to make Call of Duty 3 before you make Call of Duty 4, and since Infinity Ward was far too deep in to pivot, they had to, for the first time ever, commission another studio to make a mainline Call of Duty, and that studio would of course be Treyarch, the makers of the most successful spin-off thus far. What Infinity Ward was cooking up with Call of Duty 4, well, I'm not gonna spoil it, but they were cooking up something big. If you ask me, you didn't really need a 6th World War II Call of Duty simply to fill a 1-year gap, but Activision saw things differently. Maybe we could release one of these every single year and charge full price. Would people still buy it? A foolhardy endeavor, no doubt. There's no way people are gonna pay for a brand new but hardly different full-priced game every single year, but they proceeded with their doomed plan nonetheless. Call of Duty 3 would release on November 7th, 2006 for the Xbox 360, the Xbox, and the PS2, and then a few weeks later as a launch title for the PS3 and the Wii. But Call of Duty 1 and 2 were too much for the 6th-gen consoles. But Call of Duty 3 isn't? I mean, the PS2 version doesn't even look that bad. Why was this not an option with the other 2? And wait, this never released on PC? What the hell's going on? Well, the answer is basically that this game was super rushed and didn't matter. They had a lot of success with COD 1 and 2, and with the highly ambitious Call of Duty 4 right around the corner, this game really didn't even need to be well received. It just needed to be released on the new consoles in time for the holiday season. At the time, reviews were certainly on the positive side, but this game's reputation within the community is a bit less favorable. Back when this franchise was releasing banger after banger after banger, this one was considered to be the only major dud. I'd never played this game ever before, but I was always a huge fan of Black Ops 1 and 2, and after playing Big Red 1 for the first time recently, go watch my video about it, I was definitely looking forward to this one. I've said it before, but I always preferred Treyarch's games over Infinity Ward, so I was gonna be all like, yeah, everyone was wrong, and this is actually the best game in the trilogy. But no, everyone was right. This is probably the weakest game in the trilogy. If you can even call this a trilogy. See, despite all the spin-offs and stuff, Call of Duty 2 really did feel like the true sequel to Call of Duty 1. It had a similar aesthetic and clean look to Call of Duty 1, similar storytelling styles, characters from the first game returned, and the shooting felt very much like a direct evolution, where the other games seemed to be doing their own thing in all those regards. But Call of Duty 3 does not feel like the follow-up to 1 and 2. It really feels like a separate thing. Sometimes in a good way, but overall this campaign is quite lackluster, and this is my own fault for shotgunning so many of these, but I'm getting extremely tired of the World War II setting. A lot of people in my comments wanted me to play United Offensive, which I never did a video about. I decided to play it before moving on from this early era of COD, and I'm not gonna do a video about it. I thought it was fine. I liked it slightly more than Call of Duty 1, but it wasn't nearly as good as the Jesselnik Offensive. Thing is, I've had more than enough World War II, and nobody's watching these Call of Duty videos anyway, so I'm not gonna waste my time doing a video on something I got nothing to say about. Me talking about it just then is like an expansion pack for this video. I have things to say about Call of Duty 3, but my foremost complaint is that just 3 years in, this franchise is already starting to feel stale. And I'm really just talking about the campaign. I can't imagine how samey the multiplayer was feeling at the time. Now, I'm sure the boys in the lab could feel this fatigue beginning to take hold too, and they clearly took steps to not just make this campaign feel like another one of the same thing. Instead of the traditional American, British, and Soviet campaign, they went for a more eclectic American, British, Canadian, and Polish campaigns. There still isn't much of a plot outside of allies fighting to win World War II, but their storylines are a bit more intertwined than before, and I remember a handful of the characters. For example, when the British officer and the French resistance fighter that had been butting heads the whole game finally shook hands and said, "You can be my wingman anytime," I was like, "Ah, good for them." And when somebody died, I was like, "Ah, somebody died." Character models are a massive step up from the last game. Look at them side by side. It's crazy that this was only 1 year later on the same hardware. Yes, part of it has to do with Treyarch using their own engine or some shit. The presentation here is quite impressive, definitely the best aspect of the game. game. Treyarch's games usually have a noticeably grittier aesthetic, and this game was one of the games that does. Works well for the ruined towns and rainy forests that most of this game is set in. It's more aesthetically homogeneous than the others, but I didn't have a problem with it for some reason. I just liked the vibe. I also appreciate that this game has full-on cutscenes, like with editing and camera work and everything. Seems obvious, but it helps me connect with the characters and usually makes the plot easier to understand. Most of the games before this one told the story through mission briefing PowerPoints, newsreels with voiceover, or people talking at you in first person. There were some minor exceptions, and there's definitely still plenty of that here, but this franchise is slowly getting better at delivering a narrative. And, like Big Red 1, your squad, whichever one you're playing as, tends to feel more like people. The acting and dialogue is more enthusiastic, and character animations are more vibrant. I also thought the music was pretty good. I mentioned how great it was in the first game and Finest Hour, and after that I really didn't mention the other scores because they weren't too notable. But I did like the music in this game, so I looked it up and found that it was composed by Joel Goldsmith, whose work I have no familiarity with. But he's apparently the son of legendary composer Jerry Goldsmith, whose work I am highly familiar with. Successful nepotism. Unfortunately, this game also features gameplay, which is where I found a lot of the faults. First off, bugs. There are a fair few of them. COD 1 and 2 were pretty much completely bug-free. Those games had enough time to be polished. This one was rushed, and things don't always work right.
Check it out! Friendlies!
Oh, friendlies? Where? Oh, they'll save us? X to boost. Okay. Oh, why am I moving like that? Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, my God. Oh, hey, let me back in. Oh. God damn. Oh, Robert E. Lee. Second, shooting. Many would say the most important aspect of a COD. For some reason, it's significantly worse than the last game. Not sure why, but visibility while aiming is lower, there's a lot more flinching when shot, the recoil's kinda crazy, the maximum sensitivity is way too low. That's not fair. How come these games never let you reload the Garand? They did bring back grenade cooking from Big Red 1, makes grenades far more usable and fun, and they introduced the throwback grenades mechanic, which is not super refined yet, but does still kinda work. Third suck thing, the general unpleasantness. I get stuck on tiny objects, sometimes I get stuck on nothing. What am I stuck on right now? Ah, yes, a gas can, my greatest foe. The flinching makes it hard to aim, yes, but it also makes it just visually off-putting, especially when paired with the red screen flashing. We see the return of the awful can't move while being shot mechanic from Finest Hour. I hate how this message stays on screen when you get low on health. I know I'm supposed to take cover, just get these words out of my face so I can find some. The vehicle parts are actually pretty good. These are probably the best tank controls we've had so far, and the Jeep driving is surprisingly smooth, but the map navigation is straight asinine. Also, I guess they discovered QuickTime events between games because this one is chock full of them, and they're all lame and just draw things out unnecessarily. Stuff like planting a bomb, which used to just be one button press, is now an uninspired QTE. I did like the rowing minigame. They did a good job making it feel like rowing. This is probably the best rowing of any COD ever, but QuickTime events are pretty much always lame. Number 4th, no shotgun. Once again, I don't know why they don't want me to have fun. The multiplayer modes have a shotgun, but none of these campaigns have featured one. Hey, what the heck? Hey, that guy has a shotgun. Hey, give me your shotgun. Am I misremembering something? Did none of these campaigns have Hey, it's a shotgun. Hell yeah, boom, motherfucker, get some, bitch, boom. Okay, cross that off the list. This game has a shotgun. It is now my favorite. No, not really. It's not great, but it's not terrible. There are some good ideas and some really fun scenarios. A lot of missions allow you to take multiple approaches, and, you're in a castle. I really did enjoy the visuals and pretty much everything that wasn't gameplay, but the bugs and the janky controls combined with the stale feeling that comes from playing 6 of these campaigns in a row really overshadowed all the good stuff. I just hope these Treyarch folks get another chance after this because Big Red 1 was so solid, and I think this studio has potential. I guess I also checked out the multiplayer. Unlike COD 2, I was able to find a match right away. I jumped into a game of Capture the Flag, did okay, got some decent kills, brought the flag back once, and then after that I got kicked out of the lobby because the next map was from the DLC, so I only played 1 round. I mean, it's decently fun. They introduced the class system. I like that the map was a little bigger and more layered than what I saw in COD 2, and there's a sprint function, but we use the crappy shooting from COD 3, and you know what? I don't think I'm going to be talking about the multiplayer for these games anymore. They all deserve a lot deeper of a dive that I am not inclined or frankly qualified to attempt. So I'm just gonna go on pretending that the campaigns is the main appeal of these games, and that's what people want to hear about. This game was alright to play, but if the rest of the franchise was just games featuring several loosely connected stories about different allied powers winning World War II, I'd probably stop this journey right here. But thankfully, we're about to enter a new era, and up next is Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. If you want to be the first person in the world to be notified when I drop that video, then subscribe to the channel here that you're watching and do something with the notifications. I actually make much better videos. That's taking a back seat as I explore the COD franchise, but hey, maybe you want to check those out, huh? You like GTA 4, huh? Okay, go to bed now.
Benedicamus te in aeternum, et laudamus majestatem tuam, coram te genuflectimus, adoramus te Domine.